Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyle, community and neighborhoods. And now from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning. Welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. Dorothy, we are starting to have a couple of shows where we have to get away from real estate, right?
Yes.
And yet we're still getting inundated with information for people, but there's a hint of spring beyond the fact that spring has started.
Yes, I see the yellow outside.
And there's a hint of people trying hard to get back to some of their regular routines.
Mm-hmm.
And a year ago now, every week, you can say from March and April of last year to March and April of this year, it's sort of like an anniversary of a shutdown.
Yeah, it kind of is.
And we look where we are today and we look back and, next week we're going to be actually speaking about an event.
Okay.
Which has not been something we've done a lot of, and that is going to be the Springfest.
Ooh, Springfest is back.
It's back. It's going to be at the end of April.
As it usually is.
The 24th of April.
Yeah, that's the last Saturday in April. And
That's
it's usually when it is the last Saturday in April.
And I think the Southern Pines Business Association is waiting for some updated guidelines as to what they can and cannot do.
Mm-hmm.
But it is going to be held. That's the plan right now.
That's good.
So next week we're going to be speaking about that. This week we're going to focus on the village of Pinehurst, and a friend of mine, Kea Capel, who has taken over a very well-known, iconic shop right in the heart of the village at 80 Magnolia Road. And the Village Wine Shop is a very recognizable building. I don't know how long it's been in business, but Kea, you are a resident of Pinehurst. The prior owner, I guess you all got together, and for people, things changed, life changes, and there was a transfer of ownership.
Yeah. Hi, Bill.
Good
It's
morning.
Good to be here.
Good morning.
Yes. So the previous owner, Gwen Dietering,
Yeah.
had opened the shop 11 years ago and came to Pinehurst as a single woman. And I don't think I'm giving away any secrets to say she met her future husband through the wine shop. It was a real social gathering place. And so she remarried or married, and so they're happily now both retired and enjoying a lot more golf.
The timing was good for her, but the timing was also good for you, wasn't it?
Yes, the timing is interesting, and I think of the ways to tell the story of the ownership of this wine shop. I think the most compelling story is one of wanting to be in the village, wanting to, drive a stake in the ground in this place that has been home for so many years.
Right.
During the March of last year, we were all in lockdown.
That's right.
And my children were in lockdown. The children who were living away were filtering back over the course of the year. So it became more important to me to do something interesting and creative that kept me in Southern Pines and Pinehurst.
Right.
And the wine shop presented itself, and I thought, okay, well, I've got a lot to learn, but it will be a really great creative outlet and a place to give something back to this community that I think is representative of what it has always meant to me. A lot of that is grounded in the sporting history of Pinehurst and of Southern Pines. Pinehurst is golf, Southern Pines is equestrian, and to do something in the village of Pinehurst that can tell that story of a casual way of living, a slightly elevated take on the everyday, and being a wine shop and a coffee shop is secondary to being a gathering place.
Right. I can tell that you're not just saying that to promote the shop, because you've actually been looking in the village for a couple of years for a venue that would express what you're talking about, both in the restaurant, the hospitality industry. But your history in Pinehurst, you grew up here?
I grew up in Troy.
In Troy,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
But your history with the village is long.
Yes, I moved back here in '91 after living in New York and then Chicago.
Right.
And raised my family. I have 4 children. Raised my family in Pinehurst and Southern Pines.
So there is something special about the village that is worth preserving, but you've also seen the village go through changes in the last 15 or 20 years, and with the demographic shifts, some of those changes have not been favorable to the village, but that's starting to change.
We are seeing positive change, such as a younger group of people coming into the village. We
Right.
have, yes, we still have plenty of retirees, and that's a real vibrant part of the community. But we're getting lots of young couples
Right.
who are settling either in Southern Pines or Pinehurst are coming to the village to eat, to enjoy a glass of wine, to just wander around during the day and grab lunch. So we're seeing a change there, and the need for retail in the village still exists.
Right.
And I think with the news and within the golf world of what's happening in our village is going to help fuel more interesting retail opportunities in that village. And the more we have, the better it is for all of us. The
Right.
better it is for if there is another shop like mine a block away, that's good for all of us.
Right.
It just makes the village a more compelling place to be.
Yeah, the camaraderie amongst the retailers in the village, I found it through past shows that we've done. They've all been very supportive of one another. They all have a similar vision, but there's a need for more. And you're sort of getting in, not on the ground floor, but you're hoping that maybe 3 years from now you'll look back in the village and walk down the streets and say, it's a different village than it was 3 or 4 years ago when I opened the wine shop.
The support that I received from the Village of Pinehurst planning
Crazy, right?
was tremendous.
Yeah.
We put cafe tables and chairs in front of the shop in the place of some overgrown shrubs. Now, happily, we were able to relocate some of that landscape material someplace else. But the idea of exterior change in the village used to provoke a negative response.
That's
from
right.
Now
that's
they
correct.
are all for it. How many tables can you put? How many can you
Right.
fit comfortably? What can we do to help? We have your paperwork. Here's some questions. Could not have been more helpful. And as a result, within 2 weeks, we have our exterior seating, and everybody wants to sit outside now that the weather is nice. So it's a tremendous boost to business and pulls people from the street to a shop. So all of us in the village who have been able to take advantage of the they're not more lax policies, they're just more they're business positive strategies from the village. Oh, it's worked so well in our favor.
They're letting the retailers do a little more dictating than they did. I mean, they've opened up their arms a little bit more than they did maybe 10 or 15 years ago.
Yes, and in
sure.
terms of of everything from umbrellas to barriers to signage, none of us are going to see the village, go down the drain, aesthetically. It's
Right.
still maintained to historical standards. But what we're going to see are things that are just more provocative to people. What
Right.
you're used to seeing if you visit Charleston or Savannah.
Right.
We can bring a little bit of that
Right.
to the village of Pinehurst.
Yeah. So your creativity and the part of you, the maternal part of you, which is I've seen it. You and the artistic part of you has an opportunity to recreate the image of the shop in lockstep with the changes that are being made in the village and catering to a much broader demographic group.
I hope so.
No, I know so. Right.
I will say that it's been incredibly rewarding to be in the shop the
Yeah.
first time.
Yeah.
Old other customers, the customers who used to visit the shop before lockdown, they came on a regular basis. They came every afternoon at 3 p.m. and enjoyed a glass of wine, and it was a set group of people. They were new to the community. They came to meet their friends, and they all tell me, this is where I met my friend group in Pinehurst. I met them at the wine shop. Mm-hmm. So when these people started to come back into the store when we reopened, this is our 4th week of being open, when we reopened, they would look around a little bit, and I would hold my breath thinking, they're not going to like the feel of the store. To a person, they have been 2 thumbs up. It's terrific. It's just good to be out again. It's good to see our friends again. It's just been a lot of fun for me.
How has the feel of the shop changed?
It is more open.
Okay.
There is more seating inside, more casual seating. We do have a coffee bar, and we do have wines by the glass. So we're offering places to get that glass of wine or that cup of coffee, go into another room, have some privacy. It's more casual, elegant feeling than College Town Coffee Shop.
Right.
It didn't look like College Town Coffee Shop to begin with, but I didn't want to go for that aesthetic.
It's not bohemian.
It's not boho, no, it's not. But it's very comfortable, and everyone should be comfortable. Dogs, children,
right,
adults. But yes, it does look a little bit different than it did before.
So you've got the benefit of people starting to come back out again and being happy to be able to get out. But every month on the news, every week, things change, right? And it's a risk because retailers in the last year have just gotten slammed. And we've had many of them on. We've had some restaurant owners on last year. And, of course, they're happier right now, but it's difficult to make ends meet. And everyone is accommodating and pivoting and trying to do the best they can. You'll be doing the same thing.
Sure. It's a business, though, that allows for the pivot from wines by the glass, and you stay within the confines of the shop and enjoy a glass of wine. If you start to feel uneasy about doing that, you have 2 options. You can take your glass of wine and sit outside and drink it and feel safer, or you can buy a bottle of wine and take that home, or we can deliver your wine to you at home. So I felt like it was a business that allowed for iterations that could be profitable. It's a creative business. It's an interesting business. It's very people-oriented, customer service, all things that I enjoy the challenge of.
And the social network that you're tapping into, your timing couldn't be better. We're speaking with Kea Capel. She is the new owner of the Village Wine Shop at 80 Magnolia Road in the Village. Spring has sprung, and it's always a great time for new beginnings. We'll be right back. This is All Things Moore County. Welcome back to our second set. Our guest for the hour is Kea Capel. She's the new owner of the Village Wine Shop in Pinehurst at 80 Magnolia Road. And this weekend and every weekend from here on out, as the weather gets warmer, encourage people to go down and discover it if they haven't, or rediscover it if they had been there, because there's a different feel. The rules are a little bit different. The town is giving a lot of leeway, and you're creating an environment that didn't exist before, which is exciting.
Yeah.
So when are you going to
so.
when are you going to sleep? This is a lot of time. Coffee means morning, all day. Wine, midday to evening.
Yeah. So can I tell you about what delightful coverage I have?
Yeah.
I am, so when I was first pursuing this business, and it looked like it was going to happen, and I thought, you need coffee in this place if you want to start the day and have it to be more reasons to come in and enjoy it.
Right.
One of my good friends, Kathy Schloff, has a daughter, Mary, who was just relocating from Houston during COVID.
Right.
And Mary is a super intelligent, business-minded, lovely, lovely young woman whose dream it is to run a coffee shop, to own a coffee shop.
Is that right?
And so I said, Kathy, if Mary would consult on this and be a part of this, I would love her help. And so Mary came in early and helped pick out the equipment and the coffees and has really spearheaded the whole coffee piece of this. So Mary is opening the shop 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
And so I can come in and do a normal working day until 5 or 6 o'clock at night. And on the nights that we are open until 10, that's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we've got a couple of other people who are seasoned bartenders, and they can come in and close up at night.
So you're open Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.?
That's right.
And the other days, 8 a.m.
From 8 a.m. until 5 p.m.
8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So the coffee, it's all different types of coffees, espressos.
So we have a full range of coffees on the menu. We can make just about anything you want.
Okay.
Chai and flavorings and lattes and cappuccinos and mochas and all of the typical favorites that you would find at a
Right.
chain coffee spot. And we offer to go or have in. We offer a beautiful tea service. We have pine scones for scones. We
Right.
have Buggy Coffee. Is that the coffee place
Yep.
in Christ? Okay, so
Yep.
she bakes macaroons.
Okay.
And so we have macaroons that are local,
Okay.
very popular.
Right.
Then we do croissants and other pastries. So
I see the product line expanding gradually over time. Pretty soon you'll be able to go in there and have wine with your dinner, your lunch, or your
Stop it.
6
No,
omelet
no.
breakfast. But honestly, I mean, people who want to come down. So it's a Wi-Fi hotspot, I'm
yeah,
sure.
so free Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Very simple to bring your laptop, sit outside,
And
enjoy
drink coffee
yourself.
and-
And during the week, we have a lot of visitors from out of town.
I
When I
bet.
say a lot, we might have 4 or 5 in the shop at a time with their laptops, just doing business before they start the day. So that's been a really nice thing to see every morning. More and more coffee customers that have found us.
Right.
Coffee is a slow build. If you have your usual place to go for coffee, that's where you go.
Right.
And I don't know how people have found us because we have not advertised, but being on a busy corner, it's been a nice steady progression of business for us. So I could not be happier.
The coffee itself, the brand. There's a reason the brand that you have is it's not
Yes.
local.
So we serve counterculture coffee.
Right.
Counterculture is local to North Carolina. It's a Durham-based business. So they have a philosophy that we share in supporting local and a very hands-on, highly crafted small business model. And that's what we strive to be. We are a small shop,
Right.
so everything we do
Right.
is not only noticeable,
Right.
but makes a huge impact. So if you pay $1 for a scone in our shop and it's not good, that makes as much of a negative impact on the business as if you bought a bottle of wine that you did not like. So every single thing we do, in my mind,
Yeah.
has to be
Yeah.
top drawer, first rate, best we can do.
Right.
So that harkens back to this customer service driven business. You don't need to know about wine to come in the shop and explore what we have.
I can come in there.
You can come in now.
Okay.
And you certainly don't need to know what you want to have for a coffee drink. You know, we're happy to walk you through a lot of different iterations, or just have you come in and look around and enjoy yourself in the store.
Right. You know, last week we had Karen Fry on from Nature's Own.
Oh, yeah.
She sat over there, and she schooled me in remember, Dorothy? She critiqued my morning shakes.
Yes, I remember that.
And gave me. So guess what I have been doing since that show?
You have been implementing some of her suggestions, haven't you?
I have started to freeze all my bananas,
Smart move.
cut them.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know you could freeze bananas. And instead of putting ice cubes in the shake, I put the frozen bananas.
Is it working out better?
Yeah, it's great. And the bananas don't spoil.
That's right.
But the experience when you walk into Nature's Own, Karen is there. Mm-hmm. She's there for her loyal clients who come in with questions about supplements, nutrition, and immune boosters, especially during this pandemic. And so I kind of get the feeling that as you go, people will start coming in and they'll want to get schooled in wines and be walked through. So the personal service, it's not just a retail store. It's
Exactly.
a conversation.
That's so well put, Bill. It is a conversation.
Yeah.
And having wines that are not intimidating. I want to be able to walk you
Right.
through a series of wines that are all under $20
Right.
a bottle, that are easy to explore and
Right.
start understanding what your preference is.
Right.
Because wine is not, there are no hard and fast rules in wine drinking. You just drink what you like.
Right.
And know how to identify that, how to verbalize that.
Right.
And if you can get to that point, you can walk in any store in the world and say, I like a red wine that tastes
Yeah.
dry and herby and,
Yeah.
of the earth and mushroomy and blackberry and coffee and, get as elaborate as you want. But any wine shop owner should be able to say, oh, I've got something that you're going to really enjoy.
Yeah, and I think more people are like me, where they'll walk into a shop and they want guidance, and they may not want to admit it. We may be like the person who goes to the car mechanic to get our car fixed, and the mechanic is telling you every little thing that he did, and I'm just thinking to myself, just tell me that it works, it's okay, and I can go.
Exactly.
Right?
You don't need to know everything. You
Right.
just need somebody that knows what you like.
Yeah, and in
yeah.
terms of wines, there's so much to know, and but to do it in layman's terms and put someone at ease, they'll become better shoppers too.
Exactly. I want people to trust recommendations of, if you like this flavor, why don't you give this wine a try next time? And not present a huge a financial risk to wine. Wine is easy.
Yeah.
Wine is not complicated.
Right.
When you are buying wines from farmers, and most of the vintners that we use, these are wines that the farmer has pruned the vines, and he or she has participated in the picking and the bottling and the tasting and the blending, and those wines have different characteristics than wines that are produced for grocery store distribution. So while any wine shop might have a little bit of overlap in that department, because you need to have some wines that you recognize that you might go for. But for the most part, the intent is to present small family-owned vineyards, wines that are natural, organic, and that really show specific characteristics of the grapes that have made that wine.
Will you be featuring a lot of local vineyards?
Probably not.
Or North Carolina? Okay.
There are a few North Carolina vineyards that I think are
Worthy?
let's say worthy of me.
To get into your
But-
shop, they
well,
have to pass the test, right?
I think that some might, some are good souvenir wines.
Okay. That's a nice one. Dorothy, you see how diplomatic she is?
I see.
Did you pick that up? Yeah, okay.
Souvenir wine. But I want you to have, I don't want you to open something that,
Yeah,
not really. What a bad recommendation. This is terrible. I don't
Right.
want to have wasted my money on it.
Right.
For the same amount of money, I can give you something that will actually bring you back and help you learn more about wines.
Okay. Price points. You can go in and buy a bottle of wine for $15, $20,
Yeah.
and you can go right on up.
Yes. So we're not choosing wines by price point, any more than you would walk into a restaurant and ask, what do you have on the menu for $5? Nobody does that.
That's a good way to put it.
But I do want you to be able to walk in and find a really good wine for $10. They exist.
Okay.
But it's also important to have, between 10 under $30, you can buy wonderful everyday wines,
Right.
but also to have more aspirational wines up on the shelves. When you do start spending $50 plus for a bottle of wine, and you've had enough wine in your lifetime to start to recognize those layers of flavor,
Right.
that's where you'll find really unique experience.
Right. I envision down the road, once you get your feet more than wet and you get going, I can envision that the venue, and I'll call it a venue, you may actually have some guests come in for presentations. It could be around a 5 o'clock hour or something. Is that?
So we started having wine tastings. We had our first Italian wine tasting with our local Italian distributor, Sassy and Paolo of Bacco Wines. So they're based here in town, and Sassy grew up here. So it was important to me for them to be the first feature. So we did an Italian wine tasting.
Yep.
There's no charge.
Yep.
They open 4 or 5 bottles for people to taste so they can start to explore different wine regions. So our next tasting will be rosés and champagnes to kick off the spring. So yeah, we'll be doing a lot of those and some vintner events where actual winemakers come in and talk about the wines.
The Village Wine Shop is undergone new ownership. Kea Capel is at the helm. It's in Pinehurst at 80 Magnolia Road. Hours are Monday through Wednesday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. because they also have a coffee bar set up where they're serving coffee, and then Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays from 8 a.m. till 10 p.m. This is All Things Moore County. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our final set on All Things Moore County. The Village Wine Shop is not a new kid in town, a new kid on the block, but it's a different store. If you haven't been in for a while, Kea Capel is a new owner. She has strong roots here in the Troy and Pinehurst area. You mentioned earlier in the show, Kea, that you've got 4 children. One of them just moved back here a year ago. At this point, she was hiding out in New York City, trying to plan an escape route out of Manhattan.
Yep.
And now she's here.
Now they're here, yes. And another daughter and her husband didn't move from as far, but they also relocated.
Are they here?
Moved just down the road from the other daughter. So,
oh wow!
Except for 2 boys who are both in Wilmington, 2 girls and 2 new babies here. So I'll take that.
How many grandchildren?
2 grandchildren, both born in the past year.
Wow.
So they're just a few months apart.
What does your daughter, Capel, think of the shop and the new endeavor?
Ah, she loves it.
Is she over
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, she loves it. So she, we used to joke about Fridays with Clara. Clara is that granddaughter.
Yeah.
Clara would always come visit on Fridays with her mother. Her mother would take a half day off work. So this
Okay.
daughter still works remotely. She's a publicist for a firm out of New York. So her weeks are incredibly busy. But Friday afternoons, she would take the time and bring Clara to visit. So she still tries to come on Friday afternoons to the shop, and they both love
I
the
bet.
shop.
I bet. Do you have a website?
We don't have the website up yet.
Okay.
I tell you, Bill, we finally, we were renovating for 4 weeks, and the 5th week just had to decide to open the doors. And
Okay.
it was, if you've ever opened a shop, you realize that the moment you put out the open sign and start bringing people in is the scariest moment, I think, in shop owning, because suddenly, okay, this is where the rubber meets the road. We've got to make this happen.
Right.
So there are a lot of the marketing pieces of the business that we are getting in place. We just don't have them in place yet. We're just opening, learning the business, learning what customers like, how to navigate these things, and working on the website and other details.
Certainly, some of the photographs of the place are intriguing. But right now, in April and May, you have the benefit of a strong tourist crowd
Yeah.
who will come in, right?
Yes,
to
yes.
get you off to a big start. But it's the locals that you need to, you want to, solidify.
The locals
Yeah.
/ regulars
Yep.
are, keep a smile on my face every single day.
Good.
They are so wonderful and so happy to be back in the wine shop, seeing one another and talking about their golf game. Now that we do have the outside seating,
Right.
they get a glass of wine. They take over a couple of tables outside and just have an absolute ball. We're seeing more visitors on the weekends, out-of-towners,
Right.
people strolling through the village looking for a place to have a cup of coffee and sit for a while. A lot of families in the last couple of days. So I think that's a good sign.
The social aspect of the wine shop as a meeting place, a place to hang out. You mentioned Gwen met her husband at the shop. It doesn't have to be a cocktail bar. It doesn't have to be a smoky bar. That's all gone, right?
There's if that was there, I wouldn't be there.
Right.
But I think that it's so rewarding, as I said before, to hear the stories of the regulars of the wine shop. Gwen turned a wine shop over to me
Right.
like a child, and this is her child, and she has trusted me to carry it forward
Right.
and take care of her customers.
Right.
So that's a responsibility that I take very seriously. Gwen built this business and left me with a lot of happy customers. But to hear those customers come back in the store and say, do you know, when my husband and I first moved to town, this is where we came, and this is where we met our friends, and these are still our best friends today.
Right.
It's that type of networking
Right.
that has happened in this place.
The Newcomers Club in Pinehurst is a very large organization. If you're not familiar, you're going to get familiar with them. You need to reach out to them. People who move here from the Northeast, from the Midwest, from New England, there's a group. You don't have to be a member of a club to join. And the newcomers have formed great relationships for people who have moved here as their permanent residents. They've had events where they've traveled, restaurants, different shows, but this could be a great venue for them to come and meet.
That is a great idea.
Yeah, Vicki Hancock is.
Okay.
You probably are familiar with Vicki and her
Name
husband.
sounds very familiar.
they are very proactive, and the people who join the Newcomers Club are very enthusiastic because it gets people to meet once they get down here and get settled, because so many people who are here are transplanted from different areas.
I find I often tell people who are new to the area that
Right.
unlike other communities, very few people were actually born and raised here.
That's right.
Most of us have come from someplace else.
That's right.
And we are here with intention. We are not here by accident. We love the place and we do what's necessary to keep us here.
Right.
And you have the same story
I do.
in your past. And that
That's true.
it's easier in this town, in this community,
Right.
to find a place for yourself,
Right.
to rebuild a social network, and then to make a difference. You can make a difference in this town by, volunteering, participating through your church, through so many other other activities, and it all makes a huge difference here.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you this question because I came here originally from New York, New Jersey. Lots of people, when I first came here in 1979, I was one of the few people who didn't have a Southern accent. Today it's flipped. The script is flipped. What is it about our area? And when I say our area, I mean Pinehurst, Southern Pines, Southern Moore County, that draws so many people here from all different parts of the country.
What an interesting question. I think there's not a single answer, but one answer that I do fall back on is that people here people who have moved here have, for most of them, a lot of them have seen the world.
Yep.
They've traveled.
Yep.
They enjoy a good book.
Yep.
They are up on current events. They talk about things, not people. Ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we have a spirit of inclusiveness.
Yes.
In this community.
Yeah.
We're incredibly fortunate. I don't know another community and I was raised in a small town, so I understand the dynamic of a small town, and I cherish that. But our community is not a small town anymore. We're big, but we still live like a small town, and we relate like a small town.
I say that the same thing. This community reminds me, and a lot of people who have come here, of the towns that they grew up in as kids in a different era, maybe from the 60s, the 70s. There's a simplicity, there's an innocence here. Yes, it's getting bigger, but the areas of interest still have all that native charm. There's an innocence here. It's a daytime community. People love the Four Seasons. It takes them back to yesteryear.
Yeah.
And you're attracted to a lot of the same parts of this area that I am. But I'm a kid from Brooklyn, so my vote doesn't count as much as yours. But it's a simpler way of living.
It is.
And the pandemic has actually made people start to look at this area as a place to move to, away from the urban chaos.
I think one of the most interesting commentaries on the pandemic and my own family is the one that my children want to be back in this place, and they want to raise their children here. Has nothing to do with my being here or their father being here. They love this town, and they want their children to have the same experience.
I had a conversation with your daughter, Capel, and she said, this is a completely different town. She brought her husband to a town that she grew up in, but it is really nothing like she remembered. And it's almost like a new town to her, but there's still all that charm that brought her back. But for her, it's like a new town.
Well, it's going to be in 15 years, Bill, when all of these little kids that we see waiting for breakfast outside Betsy's, when they grow up, and we're going to have a different, a truly invigorated little place. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I certainly hope it feels like what we're talking about.
The kids in the 80s and 90s couldn't wait to get out of here, and now they can't wait to come back,
It's true.
right?
Yeah, it's so many of them.
Yeah.
People that come in the wine shop tell me we relate on the level of children. So your child's back in town. She moved from Dallas. Your child's back in town. She moved from New York City. And so many young people. I think we've been able to attract a knowledge pool of young people here, and they've got great experience outside of this town, but they're working remotely, and I think we can look to them to do great things here.
Right. I agree. The wine shop, we're going to see you there. You're going to be spending a lot of time and hours there this spring and this summer. For people who are familiar with it, get back and take a look. And for those who haven't, that's just another reason to visit the village of Pinehurst. And it's beautiful this time of the year. I can't wait to see what you do at Christmas.
Oh, gosh,
Right?
pressure.
The holiday season.
Easy, Bill.
Piece
Easy.
of cake,
Yeah.
right? The shop is located at 80 Magnolia Road, right in the heart of the village. It's open Mondays through Wednesdays, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Thursdays through Saturdays at 10 p.m. You are taking a day off on Sundays.
We'll see.
Huh? It's a great addition, even though it's you're honoring a business that was brought up with a lot of love, but now you have a chance to take it to the next level.
Glad to have the opportunity. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for this. I really appreciate the time.
Best of luck, and I hope we see everyone at the Village Wine Shop this coming spring. This is All Things Moore County. Have a great week. Thank you.